Oh, there you go. I just got a thing. Webinar is now streaming live on Facebook. So welcome
Really?
Facebook Live to our next real estate webinar, how apartment buildings are overcoming COVID-19, pandemic-proof leasing. We're going to help you guys continue to generate leads and help your apartment buildings build those wait lists we want. So yeah, we're going to give a few minutes for some more people to roll in. I guess we could start with some introductions if there's any new faces or people who are watching this as a recording. I'm Matt Sobel, one of the owners at Hey Now Media. We're a marketing agency in Cleveland that does a lot of work with real estate in the area and kind of in surrounding cities. And Tal and Lauren, I'll let them introduce themselves. They're partnering with us today on this webinar. They're local real estate experts, investors, and they're going to be bringing their expertise and helping present today. So very excited about this one. And we'll get going here in a minute or so.
Beautiful. Matt, thank you very much for the nice introduction. So Lauren and I have an investment company here in Cleveland where we buy apartment buildings, 20, 30 plus unit buildings. We have 82 units right now with a very heavy focus in Cleveland. And even through the COVID-19, we're still staying very active in our acquisitions, being a little more careful, but things are still strong in the multifamily space, and we're happy with where we've gone this year.
Amen.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I know you guys have been beating the streets, keeping up that hustle through all the COVID action. And the energy is definitely contagious to be around. So it's exciting, exciting times. And I think we can kind of get going here. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, Matt Jaffe, can you give me screen sharing here?
I did share us on Facebook too, so hopefully we got some streamers.
Hey, what's up, streamers?
Live.
You should be able to connect now.
All right, cool. Can you guys see my screen?
Water.
Yep.
All right, very good.
Also, if anyone has any questions during the webinar, just go ahead and go into the chat feature at the bottom and let us know what questions you have, and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar.
Yes, definitely feel free, interrupt, put them in the chat. Happy to address the questions. We love the questions. So, all right, let's kick this off. So how apartment buildings overcome COVID-19. Obviously this year, every single type of industry and business has been uniquely affected by the pandemic. And we really wanted to put this together to share what tactics, strategies from a marketing and operations standpoint we've been seeing that help apartment buildings overcome and continue to find new residents and sign leases, because at the end of the day, people do need a place to live. That need has not gone away. And there are apartment buildings that are being very successful in signing leases with some of these tactics and strategies. So just because COVID-19 hit and there's been a fear and there's been some different, feelings in the buying process that have been introduced, there are some ways to overcome that. And we really wanted to share that with our audience and just kind of provide that value to you guys today. So quick little agenda of what we're going to be covering. The topics are making home feel safe. Obviously it's kind of says it all, but the idea of what things we can do to help people feel comfortable and safe in what might be their new home or their existing home if they're current residents. Coordinating messaging and the communications infrastructure needed to effectively communicate with your current and future residents. What it takes to build a community that's attractive and makes people want to live in your building. Things we've seen to help modify the sales process to make it easier to convert in these times. And then we want to open up the floor to questions. Obviously, anything that's on your mind that we may not have addressed or challenges you guys are facing, we're all ears and we're here to help you. So, making home feel safe. Obviously, it's a big concern these days when people are thinking about a new place to live. With COVID, there's new concerns. Safety does not just mean, physical safety, the lights, crime, the things that you'd think about, maybe historically, the locks, security systems. There's a whole nother element of safety that is around the health of the building and what the building's operations are doing to help people feel clean and safe in this kind of new environment. So it's really important to, if you have the opportunity to, implement new cleaning and operational procedures and enforce common area guidelines for health. Transparency is key. So we want to make sure that anything we are doing in the building that's going to help the residents stay safe, we're talking about it and we're sharing that. We're making sure everybody knows what's going on. So we're going to get into the coordinated messaging thing a lot deeper, but that's part of it, is sharing the message of what you're doing. Highlighting testimonials is a great way to kind of lift the veil. And if people are having a great experience or are really happy with what's happening, showing that off. And then showcasing the staff and the people who are actually doing the work to help keep the residents safe, puts a face to that service and makes it a lot more reachable and kind of makes people understand what's happening a little better. Do you guys, Tal and Lauren, do you guys have anything to add on this? I have a few example slides coming up here of things we've seen.
Yeah, I actually spoke with a individual the other day, and there's a lot of new businesses that have been, opportunity that people have had to create new businesses around this pandemic. For example, like Matt was saying here with the cleaning, special cleaning procedures. I spoke with this guy the other day that he has created a new company where he has a special cleaning device. It's airborne. His guy comes in with 5 seconds. It's, not chemical or whatever. It's some special thing that he sprays it in 60 seconds and it like clings to every little surface in the room, the unit, or the hallway, and it kills everything, including COVID-19, flu, bacteria, mold. So things like that are also fairly inexpensive are things that we're starting to implement in some of our buildings that, like you said, just makes the tenants, feel safe and it makes it safer at the end of the day.
Especially like the common areas where the most people are. So they know that we're doing something about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so, here's some examples of signs for common areas. I think it's really great when people walk in, if they see at least, this is just an example, but some sort of sign that shows you are taking precautions, you do care, you are taking it seriously. If there's an opportunity to provide things like hand sanitizer, masks, obviously not everything is required, but whatever you're able to do is obviously a nice little value add in these times. Here are some examples of just ways to communicate the things that you're doing. And then also sort of exactly what Tal was saying. This is a client that is promoting something called BioProtect, which is one of those services that it's a cleaning service that they're doing where they're doing the service, they're cleaning their facilities with it on a regular basis, and then they're creating communications around it to tell their residents, tell the community, hey, here's the extra above and beyond thing we're doing to make sure that our residents are safe. And it's really important to make sure you're doing both the thing of actually doing the thing and then talking about it so people know what's happening and can actually appreciate it. So that's all I've got on this topic. If you guys are ready to move on here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's interesting because people are not taking advantage, but opportunity has arisen for new companies like that, which I think is very interesting.
Absolutely, 100%. So coordinating proactive messaging. This is something that really, originally when COVID-19 hit, this was all the rage. It was extremely important, hot topic. We sort of have passed that hot zone of needing to do these elaborate campaigns of blasting everything out because everybody's already been inundated with the messaging. However, it's important to stay on top of these things and not let it go. It's, until the pandemic is gone and it goes away, I personally believe it's important to continue to reiterate these things and make people feel comfortable and safe in a coordinated way. So repeating messaging from the CDC that resonates, you don't need to make it all yourself. They came out with all kinds of resources and guidelines around what to say. So you don't need to write it. There are graphics, there are existing buckets of templates and things. You don't need to make your own flyer. You don't need to make your own sign. There's examples of all this stuff that exists out there to help you start to have this messaging that's the same as all the other buildings around. Be proactive in your approach and try to answer the questions before they get asked. That's where we kind of know people want to understand what's happening in the common areas, what's happening with cleaning procedures. If you're able to post those things, you're able to communicate before people start asking about it, you're way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Same thing. You go ahead. Do you guys have anything to add with that?
Definitely about being proactive. So like before they have to ask.
Yeah, for sure. And that helps build the trust too, just to make sure, people don't want to have to ask to be taken care of. They just want to be taken care of. So it's really important to make sure that we're communicating when we're doing these things. Sharing the pictures of the signs and the experience you're creating. This is talking about kind of how to get the message out a little bit more outside of your building, and being responsive to all questions and communications across all channels. So we're going to get into the communications infrastructure next. But this is really important to make sure that people feel heard, people are responded to. If there's questions or concerns, there are unique questions and concerns about every step of the sales process and buying decisions these days. Everything's kind of shaken up and different from, just going to the grocery store is different these days. So certainly moving into an apartment might be different as well. So making sure that you are prepared and have a system to provide those answers when questions come up.
And one thing I do want to hit on that too is by being proactive and doing these things, people might think, owners might say, oh, well, they're going to rent it anyways. Who really cares? Blah, blah, blah. But like Matt said, this is totally different. You go to the grocery store differently, go to a store. So when you move into an apartment building, as an owner, you want to keep those people there for life. You don't want them to come every year and turn over. That's your biggest expense as an owner. So things like this will keep them there proactively, especially during this time. People don't want to look into apartments. They don't want to move. So if you can do everything you can to keep them there long term, keep them safe, happy, everything like that, it's a big thing on your bottom line that people don't think about always.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of this stuff is just as important these days with retention as it is for getting new leads. So making sure people want to stay, they want to sign that next lease, and they're not getting in the jeebs and feeling like they need to find a safer, different place to live. 100%, I agree. So communication infrastructure. So these are the main places that we're seeing people shift their messaging and deploy communications out to their current residents and to the community around them, to future residents for advertising purposes. So I want to go through these 4 things and we'll talk about the different ways and the most important ways that we're using them to help communicate what's going on and attract new audiences. So website. So everybody knows what a website is, but I think it's important to talk about really what the goals are for a website, because that can drive what you're putting on it and how you're using it and how it's designed and how it works and feels and all of those fun things. So one of the primary reasons that we have a website is to attract prospects, to attract potential new residents. So that means that the website needs to make the information that those potential prospects want to see super easy to find. And we try to prioritize those things. So this is not necessarily in a specific order, but the things that we see people really want to see on the website the most are photos of your building, floor plans of what their apartment will look like, the amenities and services that they can expect to enjoy in your facility. They're looking for opportunities for virtual tours. On the website, this is the opportunity to either sign up for a live virtual tour or to download or view a pre-recorded virtual tour, which has been a big thing to give people the opportunity where you can go through and pre-record a batch of content, put it up on your website and drive traffic to that so people can see the inside of your building without actually coming. And then pricing. So I do think it's important, if you have the opportunity, to at least provide a price range or some sort of, I understand sometimes in some applications people are hesitant to put pricing, but it does lead to better leads when people know what to expect when they're signing up. They know that, people want to know what to expect. They don't want to know what they're signing up for. And so getting that out there is I think, a great strategy if you're able to. And then ultimately, the biggest goal for us is to convert prospects into leads. So we're building websites that act as a funnel to drive people to answer these questions they may have, make them feel safe. It provides that coordinated messaging. It's a platform for all the messaging things we talked about earlier with safety and, headline banners, and here's what we're doing with COVID. But at the end of the day, this is the base of what a real estate website should be. And we're trying to attract people into deciding they want to potentially live here and they want to sign up for more information. They want to either book a call, book a virtual tour, come in and visit. One of those things, they want to reach out and potentially come live at the building. So that's how we're approaching websites. How are you guys in the sales marketing process seeing websites best used?
One thing that I do want to say is that you really want to make yourself stand out in this business. There's a lot of people who have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years. you'll go to their website. It's from 1990. You know, it's totally dated. You want to stay, I don't want to say hip, you want to stay, you know, new,
You want
hip.
to stay hip, yeah.
Yeah, you want to stay up to date, up to pace with everything going on. And the fact that if someone goes to your website, they see some posts or some content even around the COVID-19 or about some of the new things that you're doing, they see, oh, this is a cool place I want to live. You know, they're staying up to date with things. You know, they respect my safety. They want to communicate, be transparent. So I think just things like that can really help you, you know, stand apart from these other people.
And the photos. I know you said it wasn't in any particular order, but I definitely think photos are one of the most important things. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, those are great, completely great points. And kind of along both with the photos and with just the website being a nice website experience, we really want the website to emulate the quality of the experience someone would get when they live in the building. So if somebody is having a great experience and you want them to feel like the living experience is a very nice living experience and it's modern and it's up to date and things work and things aren't broken, the same thing should be with the website. So the buttons shouldn't be broken. The photos should be the modern photos that are up to date with what's really happening in the building. It's an extension of the communication of what the actual lifestyle should be in the building. So that's a kind of a great way to think about it. And the photos are obviously one of the best ways for us to show that. Okay. So social media. I do want to talk about social media in two different places. So to kind of transparently put that out there, we're going to talk about social media. This is organic, and we're also going to talk about it through the framework of paid advertising. There's kind of two different ways that it's used. So organic social media is really this is where you're building an actual Facebook or Instagram page. You're creating followers or people that like and follow your actual content at an ongoing basis. And this is where we really want to build that engaged audience of residents, prospects, and supporters. These are people. It's really great if you're able to get the people who live in your building to support it, people in the community. And we're really just talking about things that are happening and building that culture and the lifestyle and building that online. So we're talking about the amenities. We're trying to do the staff spotlight, staff highlights. Obviously I showed a picture of puppies because if you have the opportunity to show puppies, it's a home run. It's always a win. Events and experience is a big one. We're going to talk about building community a little bit later, but when you have events and experiences, documenting them, sharing them, showing hopefully in the future smiling faces, but at least, maybe a social distance event or something in these days. Showing that stuff through organic social is a great way so that when people are researching your building and they come to look at what it's like to live there, those are the things they find. Deals and promotions are great to also include for this audience. However, it's not the biggest impact. Typically for those things, we are looking to do more paid advertising routes, but it is nice to announce to your audience through organic. And then I put community because it's great to share anything that's community oriented, community involved, that you have the opportunity to do. And a lot of times that includes, like I already kind of mentioned, with staff, but also with residents. You could do resident highlights. You could talk about community events in the surrounding city, tying in yourself to what's going around you and not only communicating about the building. Because at the end of the day, it's an apartment building. There's only so much you can do in an apartment building, but as an apartment building, you can talk about everything that's going on in your community and make it really exciting for people to want to live in the community at your place. And kind of be the hub for all of that.
You could also, like, a cool idea would be to highlight different restaurants or local businesses around the area, like who's ordering from where, like everybody orders one night from one place, and that's where you're supporting everyone around you as well.
Yep, absolutely. Supporting local businesses is a great thing. 100%. So email. So this is something where over time, we do have a goal to build up an email list. So for people who are considering, they're in what we would call the consideration stage and they're thinking about their options of where they want to live, we're going to try to get them to sign up for an email. We want to stay top of mind. We want to say, hey, if you're thinking about moving here, give us your email address. We're going to give you all these reasons. We're going to provide value to your inbox, give all these reasons to sign up for a newsletter. We also want to have current residents emails. And so we segment these lists and we try to separate them. So that's one of the strategies that we take, is we do try to create 2 separate lists and segment the lists for apartment buildings into current existing residents and prospects, so that we can have 2 different kind of lines of communication, where for internal residents, people who live in the building, we could be sharing things that are going on. It's, you can see on this the example of, a DIY of the month, some community building things. There's the opportunity to share different messages with people that live in the building, more announcement based and more community building based. And then there's the opportunity for prospects to share some of those things, but also share more deals and more sales and more of the things that would be more kind of pushing them through the sales process, rather than just building engagement in community. So that's kind of the 2 different approaches we take with email. Um, if nothing else, having a monthly newsletter that compiles exactly sort of this, some sort of update, some sort of featured amenity, some sort of piece of content. It's something that's pretty achievable. You don't need to have an email every week or feel like it's this massive burden. But it's a nice way to stay top of mind and make sure that you're reaching out and engaging every single month over month, because the buying process for this sometimes is not short. And somebody might sign up for your email list and go live somewhere else, and a year later decide to come check you out because they didn't like the decision they made. So we really love, it's a little bit of a slower grow, but we do love building that email list and trying to stay top of mind with email as well. Have you guys, what have you guys been doing with email? Are there any exciting or new things you've seen people do to engage audience with email?
To be honest, not really. What you're doing with Copper Creek and some of the business you're doing, I think, is definitely standing apart from a lot of the people that we're seeing. A lot of the people that we're targeting as far as acquisitions, they're mom and pop owners. They don't have a website. They don't have email lists. They don't have email. They don't have any of that. Even some of the bigger companies, they don't. It's more so like, oh, there's a big blizzard, make sure to do this or that. It's not like proactive, fun things, which I think is really important, like the DIY. I think that's very cool. So I think you guys are really, doing a good job to stand out for sure.
Cool. Awesome. And that's a great point. Even like what you said with the snow blizzard, like, even like that's a perfect example of, it's super important to try to have that resident email list, so that when there's a blizzard, when there's an announcement about a plow situation or something that's really important, it's great to have that list to just be able to pull the trigger immediately and send out a quick email. You don't need a marketing team to do that. It's not some crazy, you don't need it to have photos and graphics, but it is really nice to build the infrastructure up front so that you can communicate with your audience when you need to.
Yeah, and that's another thing, like you said, because if you don't have that email list, you're going to have someone in your office, or you yourself, your property manager, calling 50 residents from your building. Hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this is what's going on. Instead of click, a few sentences, send out the email to everybody, then they have it. You know what I mean?
Make sure updated email addresses also like verified.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Cool. So paid advertising. So this is a big topic that I kind of want to break down, because there are lots of different ways that this is used, and they're all used in different ways. And it's one of the most powerful tools to drive new audiences to your website. So I like to kind of describe paid advertising. It's like gasoline on a fire. It's like a megaphone. It's the accelerant. It's what kind of blows things up, and you put budget into to make things get bigger and better and expand your reach. So all the other things are kind of slow builds. They're building your audience and slowly growing organically. When you start to run paid advertising, you start to pay to get more results and drive more impact. And there's different places you choose to pay in different ways to get that impact. So on social media, you can run paid advertisements to drive traffic from social media to your website. One of the best ways that we like to use social media for real estate is in retargeting. So that's in basically the strategy of anybody who's left your website. We already got them to the website. They were on a page, they were viewing something. We know that they were interested and they left and they came back to social media. We want to show them an ad that help stay top of mind and drive them back into converting into a lead. So that allows us to be really targeted with how we're spending the budget on social media, to not cast too wide of an audience. We're only advertising to people who have already shown some sort of interest on one of your pages. So that's one of the tactics we really like to use for social media. Google is really, really, really big for real estate. Google is where we are having a ton of success capturing intent-based search. So this is people who are searching for, where's an apartment near me? Where's an apartment in Cleveland? Apartments, whatever, location-based, amenity-based, apartment with this amenity, those types of search requests. And we have the opportunity to pay to have your apartment building rank ahead of everybody else. So there's an exercise of going through and understanding keywords, keyword research, and seeing what people are searching for, how these searches are being conducted. And then we can run advertisements against that to place ads that drive traffic so that when someone says, where is an apartment building in Cleveland? We're paying to have the opportunity to be first and say, hey, we're in an apartment building in Cleveland. Click this link. Here's all this description of how great we are. Here are all these amenities we have. Here's how you can reach us, right? And place the ad. So that's where we're driving that traffic, that awareness traffic to the website before the retargeting. So we're trying to capture people on Google while they're searching and drive them to the website while they're thinking about it. And then when they come back to social media, we're still in front of them. Another big thing to mention with Google is Google My Business. So Google My Business is not, it's kind of not part of paid advertising, but it is part of Google. It's the platform where your business is kind of like a social media platform page for your business, where it's got your map address, it's got your Google ratings, it's got your Google reviews. It's the little card that comes up on the side when you search for a business. So making sure that that's all filled out and properly set up is really important, because that's what allows your business to show up in those searches. YouTube, very similar application to social media. YouTube, we're having a lot of success with that remarketing audience. So very similar to when people have searched for something, they found you through search on Google, and then they go to your website and they leave. Now they're watching a video on YouTube. We have the opportunity to place YouTube pre-roll and different types of YouTube ads to stay top of mind, continue to make people think about potentially living at that apartment building while they're viewing content on YouTube. So Spectrum is, Spectrum, as far as cable, is an interesting platform that we're starting to explore. And depending on budget, it can be pretty affordable to just do top level brand awareness in a community. So this is where for advertisements on Spectrum or advertisements with radio, we're really talking about just top level awareness in a community. So this is really helpful when we're trying to get a big message out, and we don't really care necessarily who converts that day, but we just want to blast a message and get that repetition out in the community. So if there's a big major change that's happening that we want to communicate over and over and over again, we want to drive it into people's minds, it can be very helpful to, across all the platforms, think about when they're streaming, and Spectrum does handle streaming services too. So it's not just paid cable. It does handle, you can place ads while people are streaming as well. So placing those advertisements to say, hey, this building is open, there's new amenities, there's something new happening here, we've created a new brand, we've created a new experience, there's something new and exciting happening here, could be a great way to drive that awareness. And the hope is that more people then are going to the website, going through that Google search, thinking about the brand, and we start to see that top of funnel awareness stage building, because there's all of this repetition out in the market repeating the message about the apartment building. So, depending on, paid advertising is one of those things where the answer is yes, do everything if you have the budget. However, everybody has to evaluate their priorities and their budget accordingly. And so depending on where your building is at, depending on the situation, we would kind of, create the pie chart of where the budget goes. And oftentimes we only will do, potentially you might get away with just doing Google ads. That might be enough to just drive Google ads to the website, and something very simple could be enough. But as we get into way more robust opportunities, bigger goals, different types of campaigns and budgets, these things can be woven together to create some pretty elaborate campaigns that really drive people kind of from awareness through the funnel and drive leads.
And I really want to emphasize this, that these are all very interconnected. Like, people could think, oh, well, I'm 100% occupied right now, so I don't need to advertise. I don't need the website, blah, blah, blah.
Wait list.
Let's say COVID happens, half your building leaves. This is all very theoretical, but something very similar happened this year with the COVID-19 pandemic. And all of a sudden, now you're kind of caught with your pants down. You don't have a website, you don't have Google Ads, so you're scrambling to do all these things. However, if you have, an Instagram, a Facebook page, you're slowly growing that audience, you have a website. Then let's say, God forbid, something like this happens, you can put some money into the Google Ads, in the paid advertising, click it on, and then bring those leads in immediately, fill your building back up, and not really, skip a beat. But if you're not ready for that, you have to talk to an agency, you have to talk to someone, they have to build a website, they have to do this, they have to do that. So instead of scrambling, just being ready to go, I think from day one is very important.
Yeah, and having those email addresses already from everything you were already doing. You just sent out email.
Guys, we have a question from Jetty. Yes, what are you normally spending to get an apartment rented? And then he also says that Facebook Marketplace has been our best results thus far. I think that's a good point as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we've seen there's definitely been a variety, sort of a variety in how much we're spending on a monthly basis for the different types of buildings. We are doing advertisements for, I would say, buildings in different with very different markets or different types of customers. A college town versus somewhere totally different. But we're spending. What are we spending for them? I think we're spending a couple $100 a month, and we're driving around 20 leads per month for one of the buildings that's kind of in this range is what's coming to mind. I haven't closed the loop on how many of those are closing each month. We're working on that, so I don't have a specific answer, but I certainly, that's actually something that I would like to follow up on with my team and see if we have any more data on how much we're actually the cost per acquisition for an apartment building. Because I think that'd be a great data point for us to have. So thank you for the question. I'm sorry I don't have a specific answer.
No, I think to Jedi's point, it's a great, you want to be everywhere. You want to be on Zillow, apartments.com, Craigslist,
Sure.
Marketplace, everywhere. Like, you really want to utilize everything you can. These are just some, extra steps that you can go to really set yourself apart.
Yeah, 100%. And I would, that's completely correct. So yeah, those platforms are completely necessary, and these things don't take away from that. These are the extra things that we can communicate through. So these platforms are, I think about those as more of a listing, and these are a platform for communication. So we can really put anything out through this. This is where we can proactively be blasting out a coordinated campaign. But certainly we should be having all of those, Zillow, apartments.com, all of those types of listings are extremely helpful as well, for sure. 100%. All right. Do you guys have anything else on this? We good?
Good.
Good.
All right. All right. Building a community. So this should be a fun one. We really do think that it's important to make an effort as a building to cultivate connections and help people connect in the building and make the building feel like it has a brand and kind of a lifestyle of its own. So we have seen in the past, historically, hosting events, creating experiences, obviously just through all of the communication channels we talked about, being a source of positivity, doing little things, and building that grassroots brand support and recognition. So I'm going to go to the next slide, and then I'd love to open it up to Tal and Lauren to talk about some of the great things they've seen with this space. But community fundraisers has been a big one that we've seen work, where people band together as a community around different businesses and apartment buildings to kind of get together for a cause. So pooling money together, collecting cans, doing something like that around Thanksgiving or around the holidays, around one of the awareness months could be a great way to kind of build morale and get the building and all the residents to feel like they're participating in something together and creating an impact, and that this building is a unit and their community and that they're doing something for a cause. It's really a powerful thing that we've seen work. And it's exciting. And there's the positive benefit of it really as a fundraiser for usually a great cause. Virtual experiences for residents. So some creative things we've seen: cooking demos, hosting, live experiences with people who provide some sort of entertainment. There's different ways that you could hire people for a unique event virtually to invite people to that they may be excited about. We've seen a wide range of different things there. That's a big brainstorm there. uh, Welcome kits. I think this is a great idea to create an experience from the second somebody is moving in, to right off the ground, kind of create that impression that you care about them, leaving some kind of handwritten note. When we talk about doing the little things, things can be super cheap, but just something that goes above and beyond to go the extra mile and making it part of your process to do those things creates that extra touch. It makes people want to say, wow, I just moved in. They're so nice here. They just did this for me. And create that raving fan instead of somebody who's just like, oh yeah, it's okay. And they've got nothing to say about it. So we always look for those opportunities.
I love welcome kits. They very much excite me.
And one thing, even going off of that, a lot of your business is going to be just word of mouth. Like you said, if you create a raving fan, they're going to tell their friends, their family, that, hey, come live here. And like, obviously friends want to live close to each other. So you want to build that community, build that family. And that's what will keep people there long-term also.
Yeah. And like the welcome kits, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like I've seen done before. What we're going to be doing are like little trash cans,
It's
like
like
for the
$5-10 worth of stuff.
Sponge or like cookies or I don't know, olive oil. I'm big on gifting olive oil. So, but like it's a neutral thing, but everything that like they enjoy. So little things. It could be up to like $10. It doesn't have to be a lot. It's a thought that
and you write it into your underwriting. You put in your cost.
Yeah.
You turn your unit for $250, $300 each time you turn it over for paint, touch up, whatever, and you throw in $10 for a welcome kit.
Yeah.
It goes a long way.
Yeah. It's priceless.
So and kind of a great segue after the welcome kit and a way to use the welcome kit is resident spotlights on social media. It would be great to potentially turn it into a social media moment. Welcome this resident. Here's this welcome kit. We're so excited to have you. This person's moving in today. Create an opportunity for a social media post. It is great to kind of lift the veil on who lives there, put faces to the building. And if there are residents who are open to doing that little testimonial spotlight, if I've lived here for 10 years, this is my home, like whatever it is, to make
Frozen mat.
kind of similar to the welcome kit. It's something that can be written into your expenses and make people excited to want to live there. So, right now it's the holiday time, making sure that your building does have some sort of holiday vibe going on. Certainly doesn't have to be religious, but something that's festive and bright and helps bring joy to people in the season is something that doesn't have to be expensive, but taking the effort to do those things and change over as the seasons and the holidays and making those experiences for residents. This is their home and it's really exciting to be able to do those things for them. I think it makes a building a lot more appealing when you walk in and you see those little touches and they're changing and there's that effort there. So again, doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be anything over the top or huge or crazy, but just the little things that you could do that people like. And then kind of just to kind of wrap that conversation up, building your brand. So I think about the DoubleTree cookies. What's your thing? I think it's great to, if you have the opportunity to create some sort of branded experience that people can come to rely on. If it's a scent, if it's a piece of candy, if it's something that they, every time it's the Chick-fil-A, the best customer experience, whatever your thing is, whatever the experience is in the building, if it's, the cleanest, most real, whatever, it's important to think about what that experience is and what the residents are expecting every single day. This is what it is. This is how they want to live as a community together, and kind of curating that and helping elevate it and give small ways to make it better. Do you guys have anything else you'd want to add to this one?
Yeah, for the community fundraiser, it's not the same, but something we did at one of our buildings recently for Thanksgiving. We got like 4 or 5 like $50 gift cards to Walmart or something like that, and we did like a a raffle basically. Everyone that was like up to date with payments and in good standing, et cetera, et cetera. They put, their thing in this raffle, and they had the chance to win these, gift certificates. And
That's
that goes a
great.
really long way. That the owners care about you. You're not just another number on the paper, and you're trying to add value to them. And it goes a really, really long way.
Yeah, I love that idea. That's great. Raffles, opportunities for people to have friendly competition or friendly, opportunities to win things is always great. And it parlays into whenever you do those things, having that communication infrastructure to do it and then talk about it and maximize the value that you get out of doing it to make sure that, it goes as far as it possibly can. Because, it's not always the easiest thing to set those things up. So we want to get the most out of it.
Purpose everything. You do one thing, you use it in 5 different places. Smart.
Absolutely. Okay, so modifying the sales process. So there's been some conscious things that have changed through lots of different sales processes with everything. I mean, I'm talking about leasing a new car, and they're talking about, you don't even have to come to the dealership. We're going to come out to you. We're going to, you don't have to touch anything. You don't have to sign anything. Everything's done basically by the time you talk to us. So that's totally different. So people are becoming accustomed to the buying pattern and the buying, the whole situation accommodating different needs and becoming more touch free. So obviously everybody has their own limitations within their operations and the systems they have in place. But when possible, I do think it's important to be looking for opportunities to make the sales process as touch free as you can. So one of the big things that we're seeing is, I'm going to harp on the website again, because the website is an amazing sales tool. So instead of feeling like you need everything to be printed out, instead of feeling like you need to have flyers for everything, instead of feeling like it all needs to be physical in hand, there is an opportunity to really, in your sales pattern, drive people to the website. Pull out your phone, send people the link, make sure people are going to different links on the web page to see the photos, floor plans, amenities that you're talking about. And it goes a long way. So that's something that you can do to get in place so that you don't need to feel like, people can see them from anywhere. They don't need to have a physical thing if they're using the website as their primary resource to get their information about the building. So providing tour options. I definitely don't think that in-person tours are going away anytime soon. However, I do think you're missing the boat if we're not providing an option for a virtual tour. So it's the answer of both. Should we be trying virtual? Should we be doing in person? I think you should be doing both in a safe and comfortable way that works for everybody. So for virtual, we've already kind of touched on the opportunity for live and pre-recorded. These provide different experiences. So the opportunity to book a calendar time slot to do a live virtual tour with somebody that's basically a FaceTime meeting where somebody can literally walk through, point the camera at things and talk to somebody. It's a very different experience. It can be very personal. It gives somebody the opportunity to ask questions. Hey, go over there. I want to see that. Can I look in here? And get more in depth in a virtual way. So we do really like giving that opportunity for people to sign up for a time slot for actually a leasing agent to give a tour like they would to a person, except doing it on their phone. And it's kind of a little bit different. It's a different sales framework, but it's not that different and people can get used to it. One suggestion we did make was that people buy, if they have the opportunity, one of those, the gimbal sticks to stabilize the phone. They're not that expensive. You can get them for under $100. And basically what it does is it just stabilizes your phone. So as you're walking through, it helps people not get as dizzy or, it makes the experience a little bit better. But that's, we're having a lot of success with people wanting to do that. The pre-recorded thing is just a video. So it's doing that really well once and recording it and then putting it online. And you could do that for the different spaces in your building. You could do that for the different units that you have. If you have a one bedroom, a 2-bedroom, you want to show different amenities off. You could do a tour of the different things that you'd want to talk about in an actual physical tour. you could do it all in the video. And the nice thing about that is if you work, there's freelancers, there's agencies, there's tons of people who can help you with this. But you can edit it down. So you can take a ton of content. You can walk through your whole building, talk about everything you want to talk about, and then have somebody come in and cut it down into the virtual tour that really showcases everything in the best way, and, cut it in with a little logo and some music, makes it a nice experience. So that's a nice way to do a pre-recorded virtual tour. Self-guided tours. So we have seen people given the opportunity where basically it's like they like leave a unit open and set up a time where somebody can come and do a tour themselves. So they don't feel comfortable with an agent and they just want to be able to see a space. And there's logistics and ways to set up them getting access to that space on their own and coming to see it. And if they've got follow-up questions, they can ask them, but doing a self-guided tour. There's, obviously all of these things have logistics involved. I think that, everybody would have to figure out what they're comfortable with or the ways that could be set up, but it's an interesting opportunity if it's viable, to give people the option to basically, pick up and drop off a key or whatever, however that works. And then the last thing is the in-person with safety protocols. So I do believe that it is within reason safe with protocols to do an in-person tour. And I think that a lot of people still want that, and they still want the experience of being able to talk to a person and come see the space they're going to live in. I think that that's one of the biggest challenges with selling an apartment building or an apartment in COVID, is that this is such an in-person thing. It's so, you want to walk through and feel how it feels and look out the window and take a breath of fresh air and see what it really seems like when you wake up there. And people want to do that still. So kind of along the same lines with the communications, just making sure that people feel safe, understanding what the expectations are going to be, if masks, social distancing, whatever the protocol will be that can be expected on both sides, just having really clear communication around that so people feel comfortable. And then I do think providing in-person tours is a great option. We are seeing lots of people book in-person tours, just making sure that those protocols are in place. How do you guys feel about the tour options? What's the most successful? What do you guys prefer? What's working, not working?
The biggest thing, it's almost 2021. You have to give all options.
Yeah.
Some people will want self-guided. Some will want, they'll just sign an e-lease electronically, never even step foot in the apartment. You need to be able to cater to all these different people. Especially a lot of millennials now in apartment buildings are very capable of technology, all these things. If you can give them a good, FaceTime tour, that's all they need to go ahead, sign a lease, and you're good to go. However, you still are going to have 40, 50, 60-year-old people that are looking to rent your apartment, and you need to be able to give them in-person tour with the protocols. You need to have all of these. I think it's the most important thing, to be honest.
And I've seen a lot of like pre-recorded videos and like with agents who are selling houses, like when they have a listing on Zillow and stuff. And I feel like that hasn't really been utilized for apartments yet until now. And I think it's a really underdone thing. That's like priceless. You can come first see it like in the video and then come see it if you want in person, like, so tell us that all the options.
Yep. 100%. And we have seen that. You're completely correct. I mean, in the homes that we're helping do marketing for, that's something that the agents have always done. It's been something that's consistent, that it's a resource that's kind of part of the package, that they want to have the walkthrough video and all that of showing the home. But it really hasn't been executed in the same way for apartments. And that's where we're kind of seeing the opportunity to lift, kind of showing through video all of these places that you can live. It's been working really well. So a few more things, super important. So the follow-up process. Say, don't forget to follow up. Having a system in place is the most important part. So nobody can do this without having a system in place in any business. We call it a CRM system, customer relationship management system. There's a variety of different systems that you can choose. We as an agency use HubSpot. That's oftentimes is a great fit, oftentimes maybe not. There's pros and cons to the different systems, but having a system is the most important. So having a system that's able to track who your prospects are, the information about them, and where they're at in the deal pipeline, so that you have a protocol in place for following up. So you can understand what happens when they reached out once to the website. Do they get a phone call? Do they get an email? Do they get a phone call and an email? What happens if they don't answer? What happens after the tour? What's the follow-up? How do we continue to move them through the funnel and push towards that sale? Because they may be going through this process with multiple buildings, and that follow-up might be the biggest difference. It oftentimes is when there's no differentiator and people don't have a big reason to choose one or the other, then oftentimes they'll choose what's easiest and what's in front of them and what they feel is the best customer service and who's going to be there for them. And that's going to be the person who's communicating with them the most. So not forgetting to follow up. And really, I want to stress having that system in place to track the prospects and the protocol for following up ahead of time so that you know, this is my system. I get a lead, I call them. This is what happens whether or not they pick up. When I do a tour, this is how the system goes. And really thinking through that in advance so that all of your reps, anybody who's executing the sales process for your building, can be on the same page and do it the same way and have that same efficiency. So making closing easy. Tal already kind of gave the sneak peek on this one, but the e-documents, digital signatures, e-signs, digital docs, contactless, key drop-off and apartment access, providing any kind of support resources that you know of that could be useful for a resident moving in if you think they may need it. Anything you could do that will make it easier for somebody to move into your building and feel safe about it is a win. Is there anything else you guys are seeing that really, I mean, you guys are really more in the specific sales process to kind of help shore this up or smooth things out for people?
I mean, like you said, follow-up is that's where the magic really happens, because someone's going to look at 10 different apartment buildings. 3 will follow up, but those 3 will follow up once. So if you follow up 2, 3, they don't. A lot of times people will, like, they'll see a bunch of different places. They won't make a decision that day. They could be looking for next month. So if you follow up 1, 2, 3 times respectfully in a light manner, but still stay top of mind. I think the biggest thing is to stay top of mind. Like you mentioned earlier, it could be next year. So after the second, third, fourth touch, don't drop off completely. Follow up once a month, every 2 months maybe. But at that point, you want to have, like Matt said, a system in place that will kind of do that for you. Like we have a CRM as well, but it's like to try and remember all you do it in Excel, it gets very
Messy.
Yeah.
time-consuming.
It's almost impossible to do without some sort of system helping you. And we kind of touched on, you're kind of making a great point I want to touch on, which is the segmenting of emails again. The CRM system is the system that allows you to do that. So having a CRM system is where you're going to be able to take those lists of emails and put them into categories. So when we talk about segmenting a list, it's putting an email list into categories so that you can reach out to each individual list in unique ways. So having the protocol for following up could be segmenting an email list of people who are in certain deal stages. So understanding that they get certain protocol of communications once maybe they've gone through the hot sales process and then they didn't sign up, they didn't sign the lease, but we still want to move them into the ongoing communication. That could be a stage or a list that we say, okay, they're just going to get the newsletter once a month. It's been 2 months, they didn't close. They're going to get the newsletter once a month and we'll follow up with them in a year. Or whatever, you create those business rules. But that's a great way to kind of leverage that email tool with the follow-up, with the sales process, is creating those lists and managing those lists.
And it's all automated. It's the best part about it.
Sure is. Cool. Well, I think that was all we've got for this evening, unless you guys have anything else you'd want to add. Are there any additional questions from the group?
Go ahead, Jackie.
I think you kind of talked about it, but what CRMs do you like?
Sure. So we're a HubSpot agency, so I'm a bit biased. We run all of our accounts on HubSpot. But I do know that there are some other real estate specific ones. We're actually about to engage with another building that's on a different platform that's real estate specific. So, for right now, I would say HubSpot maybe. But basically the tools I'd be looking for are the opportunity just to make sure it's tracking and storing all your records and giving you the ability to segment your email lists and communicate with your email lists. There are a lot of really robust marketing automation tools that come with HubSpot that may or may not be overkill for some of the actual campaigns that you'd want to run. And a lot of times the level of complexity you need with your CRM is directly aligned with what you're actually trying to do with it. So I would recommend a more potentially simple CRM if you're not going to be doing as much with it potentially, but you definitely want to have something that's tracking and storing all that data. And HubSpot CRM is a great one to start with. The CRM is free to start with, and then you can do marketing tools for a fee. But yeah, happy Hanukkah in the chat. Thank you.
We use Brivity. I've used HubSpot in the past, been through Salesforce also. At the end of the day, there's a lot of similarities, as long as it's tracking information, you can set up the campaigns. That's really the most important thing. So do what
Whatever
what works for you. Yeah.
Oh my God, Jinx.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, I think we can wrap this up then, unless there's any, questions. Certainly, thank you. Anybody who is watching the recording, watching the streaming, watching live, we appreciate all of you. Happy Hanukkah to anybody who's celebrating, and we look forward to doing this again with you guys. This was a great one, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you guys. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
It's always a good time.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.